Hi, this is Gary again, of course, and today is the 24th of April 2017, and today's video is going to be about abortion. And this is a real hot topic, of course, for a lot of people. But anyway, I've thought about it a lot, and here, just a minute, I'm gonna get my. So anyway, I've thought about it a lot for many years, and I'll be honest with you, I don't see in the Bible, I don't see which is the source for the Christian community, who are, pushing the idea that abortion's murder and that it's a big sin and this sort of thing. But I can't find it in the Bible myself. You have some people say it's a string that runs throughout the whole Bible about murder being abortion. No, abortion being murder. But I don't see that at all. I see the opposite, really. And so anyway, if you look in it, there's not very much information, for one thing, that I can tell in the Bible concerning abortion. Of course, it's not even mentioned, for one thing. It's a modern issue. And but anyway, if you notice in Genesis 2:7, and it says, "Then the Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground. He breathed the breath of life into the man's nostrils, and the man became a living person." And throughout the Bible, you'll see occasionally that the word breath is mentioned quite a bit. In fact, pertaining to living person, it seems to be that's the only thing that's associated with it, is a person who is breathing is alive. And that's not to say that a fetus is not alive, but in a legal sense, God can establish the boundaries, and He does establish the boundaries for His own creation. And throughout, history, and especially in the United States, the laws about murder are predicated somewhat on, or not somewhat, but on breathing, a person breathing. And you'll hear a lot of times, I've heard this, people will say, "Well, I heard the guy take his last breath." Well, when did he take his first breath? He took his first breath after he was born, after he exited the birth canal. The doctor may have slapped the baby on the bottom, and the baby starts breathing, and you could actually get a stopwatch. A person could do this. You could take the first time the kid started breathing, and then start the stopwatch and stop him, and then stop the stopwatch after the guy or woman or whatever took its last breath. The period, in other words, from a legal standpoint, the time between the first breath and the last breath of a person is legally considered the living being on the face of the earth. As far, even from a standpoint. So when these people, these religious people, Christian people, when they push for life beginning at the moment of conception, they're really undermining the the whole legal idea, probably from God, that the person's lifespan can be measured between his first breath and his last breath. And I know I'm not saying all this well. There's people that can express it a lot better than me. But anyway, another thing to notice about this, like Adam and Eve, they started with their breathing, and then they probably died with their last breath. That was their lifespan. That was the example God gave. He didn't say, well, it's real important to have a situation where their life begins at the moment of conception, because they didn't come to earth that way. Okay, and then, you know, another example would be, then the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he placed the man he had made. The Lord God made all sorts of trees grow up from the ground. In other words, trees still grow up from the ground, just like they did at the very start of creation. No change. And so Adam and Eve, they didn't start the same way, in the same manner that the trees started. God started trees. He had them come up out of the ground like they do nowadays. But he didn't have them do that. He didn't have Adam and Eve start their life from some kind of conception. And he could have done that if it would have been important to him to do it. He could have. But he didn't do it. So, anyway, this... another thing is this, that Exodus 21:22, and it says, now suppose two men are fighting, and in the process they accidentally strike a pregnant woman, so she gives birth prematurely, or so she has a miscarriage, in other words. If no further injury results, and this, when they say no further injury results, they mean to the woman, not to the kid. The man who struck the woman must pay the amount of compensation the woman's husband demands and the judges approve. But if there is no further injury, the punishment must match the injury, a life for a life. But no, if there is further injury. In other words, if the woman gets killed, then the guy who killed her needs to die. Okay, and then in the Wycliffe translation, it says, if men chide, and I guess chide means fight or something, and a man smiteth a woman with child, and soothly he maketh the child dead born, but the woman liveth over that smiting, he shall be subject to the harm, he shall be subject to a fine, as much as the woman's husband asketh for, and as the judges deem appropriate. In other words, not really too much of a punishment, you know, for hitting the woman and she has a miscarriage. Not very much of a punishment for the guy that did it, or person. Soothly, if the death of her followeth, if the death of the woman followeth, and if her death followeth, he shall yield life for life. In other words, you kill her, you're dead, but not the baby. The baby, it doesn't. Just a little fine is what they were gonna, what they had to pay. So anyway, I just don't see it. I see the breath thing, the first breath, the lifespan between the first breath and the last breath. That's a legal length of life that a person is subject to being murdered or murdering or whatever. But these people, they extend it, and it doesn't even indicate it in the Bible. They extend it to the moment of conception. And so the truth of the matter is, it's God. He can define when murder occurs. It's His thing, not a human thing. In other words, God says murder will be a death will be can be classified as murder if you kill a person between the time they start breathing and their last breath. Any of that time in there would be, if you kill it, even if it's a baby, the baby's breathing, and you kill the baby, you've murdered the baby. But even then, with some like really poor people who can't afford to provide the baby with a with a decent standard of living, you know, I'm kind of sympathetic, because life's too hard. It's very difficult, and a lot of these Christians who are promoting, this abortion being illegal or bad or whatever, they're not paying the bills. They may go and occasionally go and bring a bag of groceries to somebody, but the kid needs to have good food 3 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Not just an occasional thing to make them feel good. They want to feel good. You know, I'm doing something. I brought a bag of groceries to somebody that's starving to death. So anyway, I doubt very seriously, on the basis of the Bible and just common sense, that there's any truth to abortion being murder. And it's also another thing is that I'm quite aware of the fact that large groups of people have been very wrong about different subject matter, about different ideas throughout history. And so I don't hesitate to challenge their thinking, because just because the idea is supported by 250 million people doesn't mean it's right or they're right. But anyway, it's a sad thing. I just saw a documentary on El Salvador, and that country embraces this idea about you know, of abortion, or a child being born before it's delivered, you know, before it starts breathing, as a real serious thing. And their ideas about the whole thing is really a heavy burden for society, or for anybody to shoulder, just extremely heavy, you know. I don't know why they would want to live that way. But anyway, to close this video, I'm just going to say that it seems as though all the evidence points to the fact that a person's life is defined legally by God as the period of time in between the first breath that the person takes after they're born, after they exit the birth canal, and their last breath. That is a measurable, quantifiable event, and anything before that is not murder. I mean, according to Bible or even common sense, really. So anyway, today that's all I'm going to talk about. Damn, that's my alarm on my computer. So okay, well, I'll stop this right now. Thanks for watching.